Today we are starting in the Parshas Imur, and it's going to be a thoughtful class. I've taken some time to analyze some ideas. Sometimes when we come across text like this that is very specific to the Jewish people, the Kohen, you kind of wonder, okay, how do I extrapolate essence from it? And this is a beautiful text to be able to do that. So today I would like to title the class Holiness, Justice, and Sacred Time, Universal Wisdom from Parshas Imur. The, the text today is found in Leviticus, and we're going to, as you turn there, I would just like to say that Emor is a portion of Leviticus from chapter 21 through 24. Though it contains many of the laws specific to the Jewish people, especially to the priest, it also offers a profound spiritual insight that apply to actually all humanity. As Noahides, we are part of a tradition that recognizes the ethical monotheism of the Torah without being bound by the ritual commandments that the Jewish people are. Yet the wisdom within these texts speak to everyone, especially for those striving to live a life of purpose and dignity and connection to the Holy One, blessed be He. Now let's examine a short summary of this parsha, and it contains really four major themes. And we'll look at those and kind of break them down and to find the meaning that we can discover as the people of the nations that want to follow Hashem and the laws of Torah. First, there are the laws of the Kohanim, rules about purity, mourning, and how what do you call it, how they should marry or not marry, what laws are restricted specifically for the priesthood. Then there are the laws of temple service, restrictions around the offerings, who may eat them, who may not, the very detailed minutia of the sacrifices. Then there's the Jewish festivals, Shabbat, the cycle of holidays like Pesach, Shavuot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and of course, Sukkot. And then last, it wraps up with the moral laws and civil laws, including the story of a blasphemer and principles of justice. And we hear this term, an eye for an eye, which we understand that the Muslims in the nations, because they don't know Torah, oral law, they've interpreted it as a literal eye for an eye, or they cut off fingers and toes. When I was in Saudi Arabia back many years ago, there was a judgment of cutting a person's hands off, and there was actually a cement block in the town center, and it was probably 85, 90 people there. I'm surprised more didn't show up, but there was a judge and an executioner or somebody or whatever, a person that executes the judgment, and they cut the guy's hand off. He was caught for theft. It was quite a brutal thing to see. Leviticus 21, 1 through 15 examines and explores the value of human dignity. Now, while these verses define purity standards for a priest, the underlying message is the dignity of human life, especially in the face of death. Now, priests must maintain a high level of spiritual purity, but they also are still commanded to mourn a very close family member, and there is a delicate balance between the two. The highlighting balance between spiritual ideas and obligations and human compassion is described in this text and understood throughout the oral Torah. Now, for those of us who are B'nai Noach, human life is very sacred. This is why most of us are very adamant about the issue of abortion in this country and around the world. There's just too many children that are being aborted as a birth control measure. And it's almost tantamount to offering their babies on the altar of self-indulgence, and it's very disturbing. The idea of showing respect for the dead and grieving properly upholding family bonds are really universal values. In a world that is often avoids death or rushes past grief, the Torah reminds us to pause and honor and reflect this idea that it is appropriate to mourn. It is appropriate to do those things that honor those people that have passed. Another element is the power of time and sacred moments, which are found in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. Here we find a list of calendar, or actually sacred festivals. Each one marks a point in time to stop, reflect, and reconnect with God, the community, and the purpose of their life in that community. Our takeaway from this, even though Jewish festivals are not commanded for the Noahides, the idea of a sacred time is a very powerful one. Everyone can benefit from setting aside regular time for gratitude, study, family, rest. Those things are actually modeled after Shabbat itself, rest. Now, even though we don't have to follow these to the specifics of the Jewish people, we can find the essence of those things and begin to model them in our own life. Reflections on freedom, justice, and renewal are the actual themes of the holidays. As I've said, we don't have to follow the Jewish holidays to embrace the discipline of spiritual timekeeping. When I say spiritual timekeeping, I'm also speaking about having a sacred space in your own life. We know that the Jewish people pray 3 times a day to reflect the offerings that take place in the tabernacle or the temple, which, since there's no temple, they have prayer times 3 times a day. The men go and they have a minyan of prayer, and that is a part of their discipline. Now, as Ben or Bat Noach, we can actually choose how we want to do that. Do we want to pray, do twice a day, once a day, 3 times a day? And obviously, from great advice and counsel from Rabbi Avener, who's in the class this morning, he would highly encourage us to find a way to develop our own unique, authentic connection with the Holy One through prayer, reading of Psalms, etc. Now, Leviticus 24, 10 through 23 deals with justice, speech, and accountability. This section tells the story of a man who blasphemes God's name and is judged severely by the court. It's followed by laws of, for example, we read eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. The Jewish tradition interprets this actually as financial compensation, and principles of justice that apply equally to the native born and the stranger. Now, our takeaway from this is very important, especially in the time that we live. Speech matters. Words have power to bless or to destroy. When I say bless or destroy, we all understand that the blessing and destroying is not always about somebody else. It's about what it does to us. Are we blessed? Are we destroying or damaging our divine light, the divine essence of our soul by the words we speak? Refraining from gossip, profanity, slander. All of these things are universal principles that many of us in the West often have a difficult time, especially with social media, to really honor. A lot of ancient cultures are a lot better at this than probably we are, and obviously we all probably should work on it even more. Justice must be impartial. The Torah affirms equality before the law, regardless of status or background. Accountability is the key. All people are responsible for their actions, especially when they harm others and disrespect the sacred. Speaking of that, reminded at this time in this country, and I would think all around the world, everyone would like justice. But it seems like that we have reached an apex in this country where the righteous, goodly, godly people are tired of the inequality and injustice. What do I mean by that? Where the rich and powerful, the influential, the connected often are able to obfuscate and get around being criminally prosecuted for things. They can do unethical and unhinged things in our society, and yet justice tends to wink at it. And we've come to a place and a time that we need to demand it, especially as people that are pious in this country. We should demand justice when we realize the number of children that have been trafficked in this country. It's mind-boggling. I saw a statistic that was put up in an article. It had a map of the United States, and red dots represented URL addresses, or I'm sorry, individual IP addresses of people that have knowingly went on sites that had child pornography. And we're talking about, when I say child pornography, it's the most egregious video and photo content. And half of the United States, all the way up to, say, I would say Colorado, a little bit west of Colorado, was red. And then from, say, Arizona over to Oregon, California, basically the same kind of colors. The middle of the country is less, less occupied, so they had fewer people that went on these IP addresses. When I saw that, I told my wife I felt sick to my stomach, because you think, okay, there are people that do these kinds of things, but you wouldn't think that that many people, hundreds of thousands of individual IP addresses, most of them are married men with children. When are we going to get justice for children that are being systematically raped, tortured, and even killed for the sake of pleasure? It's a sad time, but I'm also heartened and feel confident that we live in the age where this kind of accountability is going to come. We have the capability now of tracking people down, and there are people in this country who are working very hard to track down these individuals. Just about 2 weeks ago, there was 200 and some odd people arrested for child pornography and child trafficking. Unbelievable. So can we expect it? Yes, we should expect it. And should we demand it? Yes, we should demand that our society returns to a place of goodness and purity. Is it too much to ask for? I don't think it is. And especially if we are looking for the day of redemption that we often talk about, the day in which we have a singularity amongst humanity and God Himself, we have got to work hard to bring about that era. Remember, this is an important, important phrase. Holiness is a path. It's not a status. It's not something conferred to you. Often we think holiness is having some priest or some clergy lay his hand upon you and declare holiness for you. But holiness is a path we trod. Holiness is a journey. Holiness is a process. And it's not something that you ever complete. It's a dedication to perfection. When I say perfection, I'm not saying that holiness means that you are perfect. It means that we are striving for that level of goodness and purity. Though the Parsha, begins with special laws for priests, the concept of holiness is not exclusive. I said this earlier. Throughout Leviticus, we're told, "Be holy, for I am holy, the Lord your God, I am holy." Leviticus 19:2, and then it's also echoed in this Parsha. Holiness in the Torah means setting oneself apart from a higher purpose. It's called distinction. It's called differentiation. That is what holiness is. We, as a society of people that are good and pure, are not interested in entangling ourselves in the darkness that exists or that we coexist with in society. As the Hasidi, Umot Ha'olam, we don't need to have a title or a ritual role to live a godly, holy life. Many of the people who leave their former abodes and religion, whether it be Christianity or Muslim or Buddhist, whatever it may be, to become a ben or bat Noach, a person of the nation who is righteous, they often feel that they need a title. They need to say, I am Jewish, I'm Christian, I'm Buddhist. God doesn't ask you to be anything more than a righteous person connected to Him. Now, how do we do this? What is this life of holiness that is not bound by ritual or religious tradition? Now, let me just say this. I am not saying that one who follows ritual traditions are not attempting holiness. What I'm saying is often it can become a replacement for actual, pure, authentic connection to God. A person who's attempting to establish that authentic connection can also enjoy the rituals of whatever they're doing as long as they're not idolatrous. Here are some examples: acts of kindness, honesty, humility, prayer, and service is about elevating our life, is what actually elevates our life. The path of holiness is walked out every day through small, conscious choices. I've said this many times and I'll repeat it again. Just as the High Kohen Gadol draws down light to the people of Israel, Israel draws down light and brings it to the world through as priest to the nations. But we as people of the nations have the ability to draw down light to the very lowest place and illuminate the very darkest place by just keeping it simple, by walking in beauty and speaking or guarding our lips and speaking words of encouragement to people. It's very, very practical. So speaking of practicality, let's break down some practical applications for those of us who are people of the nations. There are 5 ways we can live out this lesson of Parshas Imur. First and foremost, honor life and family. Uphold the dignity of others, especially in times of loss. I had a conversation with somebody just recently who they were particularly religious, and now they're not religious in the sense of a particular structure, but have engaged in a search and a knowledge of God much like us. And they are married to a spouse who was not religious at all, but then started going to a Catholic church with their friends. And the person asked me, "What do you think?" And I said, "Look, we're all on an individual journey. I would never discourage somebody from the exploration or the journey itself. And as a spouse to this person, it's important for you to help encourage them to look for authenticity, to connect to God, and not allow religion to become the replacement for that." The next thing is the keeping of sacred time, sacred space. We've talked about this a lot in this community, about establishing a regular time for spiritual reflection, prayer, study, meditation. And when I say study, I'm not just talking about picking up a book, but I'm talking about what do you call it? Have an inquisitive mind, want to learn how things work and how God connects to people and how the Torah connects to God and how the Jewish people react to that. Really getting into a study and reflection of the text is powerful. We in this community that regularly either watch the videos or come to class in a live class realize how it elevates our soul. And we're all so very appreciative of the times that we get to sit down with Rabbi Wobi, Rabbi Avener, with Steve or myself. We get to sit down and have discussions that really does amazing thing. Now here is the other thing that I try to work on real hard, and that is guarding my speech. Words of uplifting of words to people, avoiding gossip or disrespect. Now, I don't do those, but I tend in my banter and humor to say things that is probably a bit negative or lashon hara, and I don't want to do that. So all the people in this community help me very well. Sandy and Mary and Steve. No, I don't know about Steve. Other people. The women are really good at helping remind me, especially my wife. My wife's real good at that. Next, let's look at the idea of justice, supporting justice. I mentioned earlier, promote fair treatment and accountability in our community. Demand it. Lastly, is this idea of pursuing holiness, choosing integrity, compassion, and humility in our life. Walking in that is a powerful choice that we can transform the world. Just as the Kohen helped to transform the daily life for all Israelites in the wilderness, so too we, the people of the nation, can transform our local communities. So in conclusion, Parshas Imur may seem at first glance to be focused on a priestly class and Jewish ritual, but its deeper message and messages within the text are timeless and universal. It calls us all, who either Jew or non-Jew alike, to live with reverence, to respect in sacred moments, to uphold justice, and to strive for holiness in our actions. In a world often divided by status and speed and self-interest and ego, the Torah reminds us that holiness begins with how we treat time, people, and with our words. Thanks for joining the class today. If you want more information on NETIV, go to our website, netivonline.org, netivonline.org. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We really appreciate it. May the Holy One direct your path with wisdom, kindness, and sacred purpose.